Okay, film class, week 11, part 5. All right. Um, okay, before I get into Alma's deepest, darkest secrets, I do want you to notice this is one of the movies that's very much every frame a painting. It's beautiful. This is a movie where, and this is one of these things I can't teach on the internet. I would really need to have a copy of the movie and to pause it and just demand that you look at the scenes. But this is a movie where you can basically hit pause anywhere, and you've got something so beautiful that I would print it out and put it on my wall. It's gorgeous. But one of the things that happens is the way faces are sort of blended in this film. So, for example, and this is very hard to do, but I'm just gonna be an idiot and try to do it. But one of the things you get is you'll have Alma looking forward like this, and then you'll have Vogler on the side, so that their faces, like, you ever see a Picasso painting where it's like a face, but it's like fractured like in a cracked mirror? There's something like that here with the two women, where their faces sort of combine and blend. There's another shot in the movie of Alma like this and Vogler like this, and they're sort of blended on top of each other, right? They're crisscrossed, or they're next to each other facing the camera, but their heads bent together like this, and they kind of reverberate and shake. Like the borders of them are not quite solid. There's multiple examples of this kind of thing in the film. Um, but it's a big part of what makes Persona, and they're visuals of faces blended together. And of course, that matches what the film is about, which is these two women whose personalities begin to collide and combine in strange ways because of their isolation, because of the intimacy. Intimacy is when you get close to another person. These women get so close that they start to almost become each other. If you've ever had long-term relationships with people, or with your parents or your children, there's like a thing where sometimes you feel like they're you, right? That you spend a lot of time with somebody, you understand the way they think so well that you can finish each other's sentences. And there's something like that happening here between Alma and Vogler, but it's like it happens too fast because of the situation. They're isolated, and one of them doesn't talk. Um, okay, cool. So, um, anyway, so the point is the visuals of the faces blended together at multiple points in the movie, and please remember them, particularly that shot of where the two of them are like this together, but their faces blur. They seem like they're shaking or blurry in some way. There's like a reverb effect where you can see almost, it's like three of them on top of each other. Please remember that for a upcoming David Lynch movie. And also remember the shot of one of them looking like this and one of them looking like this, where the faces combine in a weird way, because that's going to come up in our David Lynch movie at the end of this unit. Okay, so Alma, in the middle of the film, provides Vogler, and again, Alma should be the doctor and Vogler should be the patient, but here it feels like Vogler is the doctor and Alma is the patient. Please notice also, Alma means soul and Vogler means bird catcher. So there's something, Vogler's trapping Alma in some way, some potentially dangerous way, and Alma is giving up her soul, her inmost treasure, her darkest secrets. She's giving them up to this person. What is her secret? Well, it's that her and a friend had sex with two boys on the beach when she was married to. She had a fiance. That was her fiance, I guess, at that point. Um, um, and that a couple of things. One was that Alma got pregnant and had an abortion. But the really intimate thing about that, about that story, it's sex, which is particularly intimate. But this is sex with, like, there's two boys, and the boys are having sex with both the women. That the women are watching each other have sex with the boys, which is a lot. But also, and this is something really more unusual even than that erect penis we saw at the beginning of the film. This focuses very much on female pleasure, which is something that is often ignored in film. There's a lot of sort of, it's not a subject that films feel comfortable dealing with. But the idea of, like, the female orgasm and the sort of intense female pleasure from sex, and these very sort of intense female pleasure is something that is often ignored. It's ignored in society. It's ignored in. So, for example, just to give a really simple example, medical science has spent a lot of time on things like Viagra, which is helps older men or men who have erectile dysfunction sort of maintain erections. But there isn't really like a female equivalent of that, because scientists are more interested in science is a lot more interested in sort of making sure men have erections than women have health care of any kind, birth control or access to Planned Parenthood or these kinds of things. It's just sexism. This is a movie that's very much about this story is very much about female pleasure. But it's the story that Alma tells, not Persona the story, but Alma's story that she tells Vogler about these boys on the beach. And I hope you'll notice, by the way, the voyeurism as well. It's not quite as intense as you see it in Rear Window or in Blue Velvet, but there's a similar kind of voyeurism thing where the women watch each other have sex, and I guess it's not voyeurism because they know they're being watched, but the boys watch the women, and then the women have sex, and the women watch each other. It's a lot of it's watching for pleasure, watching someone else have pleasure, for your own have pleasure. It's this subject, we've already covered this in Blue Velvet and in some other areas. Also, by the way, in the script to the movie, and I hate to tell you this, but in the script to the movie, the boys are 16 and 13. And Alma she has a fiance. So she's clearly over 18 to have a fiance. So this is also a story about what we would call statutory rape, because she's having sex with these are women having sex with these are grown adult women having sex with boys who are not adults. So it's a very sort of complicated, very difficult. It's a very difficult, complicated scene, a difficult, complicated speech, and it's not the kind of thing you see in movies. Say what you want about this movie. There aren't a lot of movies like this. Although I swear to God, if you want to do a paper on single white female and Persona, I would love to fucking read it. That's a movie from the 90s. I don't know. Talented Mr. Ripley also is about people kind of blending into each other. I'd really be interested in movies about copying. And anyway. So, okay. What's interesting here, there's one way of thinking about the movie. I don't want to be like, this is what the movie's really about, this is the secret. It's not the secret. It's a way of thinking about things. It's not the only way to think about things, but it's a way of thinking about things. Sometimes it feels like Alma and Vogler are almost like two versions of the same person. That Alma is Vogler's soul. It's crazy. Right, but the idea, if you look at the two of them, it's like, how you have to make a choice sometimes, and when you choose to go through one door, you can't go through the other one, and because of the nature of time, you can't go back and do both. Two roads diverged in a wood, and knowing that I could not travel both and be one traveler, long I stood and looked right. The point is that if you got two roads, you got to pick a road, and you can't just go back and do both roads because you can't live two lives. But there's something in here, and you can see it in this story, which is that Vogler became a mother and that Alma had an abortion. So it's like two women, one of whom has a kid and the other one had an abortion. It's like the fact that they blend into one person. One way of thinking about it is that they are almost like two versions of the same life. I'm not saying that's what the movie's really about, but there's suggestions of that I think are worth thinking about. Okay, cool. Yeah. Their relationship between the two women is very complicated. And again, I mentioned social roles about, I'm going to be a wife, I'm going to be a mother. The relationship between Vogler and Alma is very, very unstable. It's not simple. The roles, if you go with the current, you get these very simple social roles that are easy to step into. You're a wife, you're a mother, boom, there are your roles. With Alma and Vogler, it feels a little bit like they're mother and child. Like Alma's a little child talking to Vogler, her mom. Just babbling and talking away like kids do. Sometimes it can feel like Vogler and Alma are the same person, but living different lives. Sometimes it can feel like Alma and Vogler are sisters. The movie also sometimes feels like they're lovers. Like they're like queer, like they're lesbians or something. It feels a little bit like Vogler feels a little bit like a priest taking confession from Alma. It's doctor-patient, where Alma is the nurse and Vogler is the patient. But it also feels like doctor-patient the other direction, where Vogler is the doctor and Alma is the patient, because Vogler is really helping Alma with her troubles and her guilt over this abortion. it feels like they're doubles, like they're the same person, like they're copies, like an actress and her character. Um, there's something, yeah. So it's the roles are not stable, and that's one thing that makes the movie confusing and interesting, I think. And you see that same kind of instability in the films of David Lynch, with Renee and Alice. Yeah, you saw that. Yeah, with Renee and Alice, for example, in Lost Highway. All right, I'll pick it up in the next video.